welcome to Unexplainable Stories of Hope and Healing. I am your host, Erica Wiggenwarn, and every week we have a featured guest and we share a story about unexplainable Jesus and his incredible faithfulness and love as we walk through just about any and every circumstance of life. And today's guest, I am so excited for you to meet her. She is my friend Natalie, and she is going to share with us how Jesus met her in a foster care journey. Natalie, welcome.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about how God first laid on your heart to get involved in foster care.
Okay, so my husband Brandon and I, when we first got married, we knew that the Lord was going to bring children into our home that weren't biologically ours. And we knew this before we even had our own biological children. Now we see that it was the Holy Spirit that laid it on our hearts. It wasn't just some random idea that we pulled out of the air, that he gave us both this like-mindedness as far as not even foster care at that point, but having children in our home that were not biologically related to us. So we started out pursuing an international adoption, and we got to a certain point where we were going to have to start signing contracts and
writing big checks.
Yes, writing big checks. I remember it was $6,800. I still remember to this day. And we had gone through a personal loss shortly before we made that next step, and we decided to take a step back from the international adoption and just kind of rest. And it was during that rest time that we saw a local church was going to be hosting a foster care orientation, which is the very first step to becoming a foster parent here in the state of Arizona. And so we attended. And Brandon and I walked out of that church, went and sat in our car, and we both looked at each other and we realized, yes, the Lord had called us to foster care, and we were going to continue along in that journey towards becoming a licensed foster family.
So God really put it on both of your hearts,
Yes.
brought you together in that.
Yes,
It wasn't one of you really pushing the other one. It was God brought you into agreement. This was what he was calling you to do. Tell us, you went to the orientation, went through all the training. The day finally came. This precious little girl walks into your lives, walks into your home, into your family. Tell us about that.
Okay, so our very first little one was a little girl, and we'll call her Sweetheart because that is definitely who she was. She came into our home, and we were just instantly we just loved her from the moment she came with the caseworker. We just instantly felt this attachment to her. We instantly loved her. Our children also instantly just brought her in and welcomed her. And we didn't necessarily have any fears at that point because we were green, so we didn't exactly realize all the things that would be happening. We were excited, and we had our little bed made up, and we were ready. We had received kind of all of the training that other people could give us, and now we're going to walk this out. And so we were very excited. The people around us, family, friends, well-meaning family and friends, had questions. And one of the main questions that kept coming up was, what about your children? Meaning, what about our 3 biological children that we had in our home? What about them? How is this, going to be for them? And that was a little bit difficult to kind of field those questions, especially in the beginning when we didn't even really know exactly what would happen. The only thing that we had was the calling from the Lord to this ministry, and we had to believe that God was going to meet us. And so we started with that hope, that God was going to take care of it, and he was going to show up in amazing ways for us and for that child and our biological children in our home. One day, one of my children, she came up to me, and
she was 4.
She was 4, new 4 too. Okay. Her verbal skills are very advanced, and so there was no mistaking what she meant when she asked me, Mama, how long is Sweetheart going to be with us in our home? And when she asked me that question, I instantly kind of remembered all of the things that people had been telling us about, well, what about your children? And what about your children? What about your children? And so I instantly thought, oh my gosh, I'm so afraid. What did we do? Maybe we made a mistake. Maybe this wasn't right. I'm already assuming that I know why she's asking this question. So I gingerly said to her, when Sweetheart's mama is feeling better, and when she's safe, and when she's well, then Sweetheart will have the opportunity to go home. And it could be a very long time. And she looked up at me and she said, well, I'm glad she's staying for a long time because she needs a lot of love. And at that moment, I was just so touched by her heart, my 4-year-old child's heart for this other little one that had been brought into her home. And it just showed me that I didn't need to be fearful about what other people were saying, because sometimes when we're following Jesus and the calling that he's put on our hearts, nobody else is going to understand it. Nobody else is going to get it. Nobody else is going to feel what you feel because they haven't been called to where you've been called.
Right.
And so after we had that exchange, my daughter and I, she went off to play with Sweetheart, and I was in the kitchen, literally sunk down in the safe space of my kitchen on the floor, and I just cried. And I just thank God for all he was doing and all that he was going to do in our entire family, and how he was using this little Sweetheart to minister to our souls.
So beautiful. So beautiful. So you went into it as foster parents, but in reality, you are a foster family.
Absolutely.
And God was doing things in all of your hearts through this process. So really going into it just with that whole idea of we are ministering together. Our family together is going to come minister to this other little life.
Right.
Imagine the person out there watching, the woman out there watching, and she's remembering that day, but now she's also walked just maybe fairly recently, or maybe she knows this day is coming upon her soon, where her little Sweetheart is going to go. She's going to go back. And she's really struggling. Maybe she's having the same thoughts and feelings you did. Like, did I mess this up? Did I make a mistake? What would you say to her as she's either in the midst of that grief or just scared to death of what that grief process is going to be like? What hope would you offer her?
Right. So the first thing that I would assure her is that you did not make a mistake. The Lord does not make mistakes. So when he called you to bring this child into your home and to minister to this child's heart and to heal them, that it was for a purpose. It was for a reason. God is going to use all of this. There is that initial just guttural pain, that hurt when they leave your home to transition home to either another family member or, biological parents, that it hurts. It feels like you are grieving someone that is still here on this earth. And I definitely can understand that feeling, but just know that it's all for a purpose, that God is using all of it. And even if that child is small and you think they're never going to remember me, they're never going to remember how much I loved them and how much I cared for them, that God is so powerful that even if they don't remember you, there's going to be some part of them that will know love. because of what you have done for them. And so don't lose hope. Keep praying for them. I always tell people that I have 3 children that are in my home today, but I have 6 more that spent a significant period of time with us. And even though they may not call me mom, I will always think of myself in some way as their mother. And by that, I mean, I pray for them. I think of them. I look at their pictures and we talk about them. And sometimes I even dream of how cool it would be to maybe bump into them one day when they're older.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe I'll recognize them, and maybe they'll be doing amazing things for the kingdom. And maybe in some small way we were a part of that.
Yeah.
So I would just say, be encouraged, be good to yourself, surround yourself with people that are positive, people that are going to really pray for you, people that are just going to sit and cry with you, people that just are encouraging. And just remember that God does not make mistakes. And it's all for a purpose, even when we can't see it in that moment, through that pain, that hurt that we feel, that there is hope.
Natalie, I love how honest you're being, that foster care is hard.
So
it
hard.
It can make your heart burst with joy, and it can also rip your heart in two at the same time. Maybe there's somebody out there watching and they're sensing a little bit of that nudge of, maybe we should just go find one of those classes. Maybe we should let's just learn a little bit more about it.
Right.
What would you say to the person out there that's just kind of, maybe, I don't know, might be too hard, I don't know. What would you say to them?
I would tell them to pray and pray and ask other people to pray for you, and take a step in faith, take a step towards action, go to the orientation, call a foster agency and ask questions. I would tell them that if you're feeling that tugging in your spirit, that is something that you don't want to ignore. You don't want to ignore it. You want to you want to just keep making those steps forward, even if they feel like they're small steps, like keep moving towards that. And God will show himself, and he will make himself clear to you. And just have faith that if he puts something on your heart, that he is going to be the one to complete it, and he's going to see it through. And just to be faithful to what you feel, the Lord could be calling you and your family to.
What about the people out there that, they are certain, like they're not called to foster? Maybe it's, it could be a million scenarios, right? Maybe they have a special needs child that takes a tremendous amount of time. Maybe it's a financial situation and mom works 50 hours a week, dad works, whatever the situation might be. But yet this is something that is a burden for on their heart, or maybe they know someone who does foster. What are some practical tips that, people that don't feel called to bring a child into their home, but they can still support the work of foster ministry? What are some practical ways to do that?
So I would say that the most practical things that you can do really are to pray, to provide support to families that or even families that you don't know, that maybe attend your church, or that a neighbor that you see that does foster care, or someone that you stumble across. I think that we all can use our God-given gifts to serve the kingdom in many different ways, and that's including foster care. And there's so many different things. We had a lot of people come alongside us as a foster family to just encourage us. Pop-Up rocks the babies, and he's excellent with that. And for those of you that have children in your home that were born exposed, that they really enjoy being held and rocked a lot. Sometimes they don't, but when they do, Pop-Up was always there to do that for us. Mimi showed up with meals on the days where there was a visitation and the child came home and they were just really struggling, coming back home after a visit. And my mom would show up with meals to feed us, just those practical, very practical things. If you don't live near the person, my sister, who the kids call Auntie Coley, she would call and she would pray for us over the phone, on speakerphone, and literally be praying over my household. And there were days where I would just call her and just say, I need you to speak life over this home right now, and she would do that. My best friend Bethany was always so encouraging. Whenever I would talk to her about my struggles or things that we were going through as a family that just seemed like we weren't going to be able to, conquer those struggles or get through that day, she was just so encouraging to us. There's ways that you can volunteer with your local organizations. They do backpack drives for kids that are in foster care. They have, CASAs, court-appointed special advocates that advocate for children in foster care. Even just dropping off a package of diapers or just really like God uniquely gifted all of us. And we can all serve the kingdom with our own unique gifts. And it doesn't have to just be by bringing a child that's in foster care into your home. It can be so many different ways. Talk to if you know a foster family, ask them, and they will probably give you a list of about 15 different things that you could do that would be helpful.
I know a couple of Christmases, we have a woman in our church who has fostered a lot of children, and there were a couple of Christmases where around Christmas time we would invite her and her biological family, but also her foster family, over for a Christmas dinner. And my kids would go and buy presents for her kids. And my kids are teenagers now, but they still remember that, and they still talk about that. And it wasn't something that we would do on a regular basis, but we would try and do it at least once a year just to bless them. And it's true. You think that you're blessing them, but in reality, what God is doing in your life and what he was doing in our kids' lives through that was so much greater than what we gave them. So it's just, it's God's way to just be open. So thank you, Natalie, for encouraging us with your story. And I know that those out there watching, whether they're in the thick of it or they're praying about it or, they're just in a place of devastation because it didn't unfold the way they thought it would, that your story encouraged them today. So I know it encouraged me. So thank you. Friend, if you were blessed today and encouraged, maybe you're in foster care, we certainly would love to hear your story as well. So please feel free to comment. And if you know someone in foster care ministry, please share this with them and encourage them today. And of course, we would always invite you to like and subscribe to hear more unexplainable stories of hope and healing. And if you would like to know more about this unexplainable Jesus who walks us through some very exciting and also some very difficult things in life, we would invite you to check out our website at ericawiggenhorn.com. But most of all, we pray that you will always know that while life may often throw us the unexpected, unexplainable Jesus is always more than enough. God bless.